Happy Halloween, everyone! Can everyone guess who I'm dressed as? Alright, I have a little bit of a special Halloween video planned for you guys today. I thought it would be really interesting to take a look into some of the creepier Pokemon cards because there is actually quite a few that get really creepy. And I thought I would do it dressed as Tom Nook. That's my Halloween costume, and I'm gonna pretend like I haven't used the same Halloween costume like 4 years in a row. Although Pokemon may be marketed towards children, the franchise itself is definitely no stranger to the weird and creepy. I think we all know this. I feel like we've all had those moments when we read the Pokedex and we're like, I don't know if that should be in a kid's game. From just straight up weird, disturbing, unsettling artwork to the actual backstories that these cards hold, the Pokemon TCG is actually full of cards that will give you the creeps. So, in honor of the Halloween season, here are my top 5 Pokemon cards with creepy backstories. Number 1. Frostlass from Twilight Masquerade. When looking at a Frostlass alone, it can be kind of hard to remember that they are in fact ghost-type Pokemon. And there's one card in particular in the Pokemon TCG that I feel really helps bring this fact to life. Now, there's a little bit of backstory to this card that you need to know in order to know why it's so creepy. And part of that is because I believe that this card is actually showcasing the scene of Frostlass about to murder an entire family, to put it lightly, and we can learn that from the lore of Frostlass and when we learn what it likes to do to its prey and how it gets its prey. So let's take a bit of a look at that. We learn from one of Frostlass's Pokedex entries that Frostlass is known to bring its frozen prey back to the cave it lives in before lining them up neatly. And here's the key part. It also goes down to human homes to knock on doors during nights of cold blizzards, which is exactly what we see happening in this card right now. In the card, we see the ghost in the setting of a traditional Japanese home. You can see out the window on the card, it's a blizzard outside. Blizzards are when Frostlass does its hunting for prey. The inspiration for Frostlass as a Pokemon is a character in Japanese folklore called Yuki Onna. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if I'm not. This is a spirit that is typically depicted as a woman. There's been a couple different interpretations of Yuki Onna in Japanese folklore. Some of them say that she froze travelers with her icy breath and, you know, them. I don't know why she did that. I guess it was for fun. God forbid a girl have hobbies, I guess. I don't know. However, other legends also depict her as actually going out and seeking prey rather than just whoever comes to her. And she will go invade homes and freeze the people in them. And I quote from the Wikipedia, she often invades homes, blowing in the door with a gust of wind to kill residents in their sleep. Family-friendly fun for everyone, Pokemon. With that card, yeah. So now that we know a little bit of backstory on Frostlass, we know 1, it is based off of a creepy ghost woman who likes to kill people in their sleep by freezing them to death. And 2, we also know that Frostlass has seemingly inherited those traits. Pokemon has said Frostlass is known to do that. Frostlass does go do that. That is just something Frostlass does. It's real funny, goofy like that. Like I said, knowing all this, I think we can safely say whoever's home it's broken into in the card of the Twilight Masquerade TCG, I don't think they're alive anymore. And also, that's really creepy. When I first saw that card, I thought it was really creepy, and then I thought, I want it. Petition for Pokemon to make more weird cards like that. Pretty please. But yeah, I love that card. I think it's really cool, and I think it's really cool when you learn the backstory about it a little bit more, because it does make it a little bit more creepy. It's already kind of creepy, like this Frostlass is like sneaking around this house, but it's even more creepy when you know the backstory. Number 2, Sabrina's Gengar. This card is pretty well known amongst collectors. I'm pretty sure almost all of you have probably heard of it at some point in your lives, and that's because it's kind of a controversial card. It's banned in America, in English prints. It was banned because of religious imagery, so they had to censor the crosses on the gravestones. I also don't know if it was just kind of banned because it was kind of morbid, but the English versions do censor the fact that Gengar's in a graveyard. I want to point out the fact that he is in a graveyard and why that's so creepy. Because again, the lore. So it's common knowledge that Gengar is a ghost type. It's also like depicted as a very stereotypical ghost, especially in the anime. You do see Gengar acting as a ghost. Like when houses are haunted, it's usually like a Gengar. I feel like there was a recent scenario, I suppose, in the anime where Ash caught a Gengar. I think he was haunting like a research lab or something. I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched it. But that is the typical interpretation of Gengar. Gengar is a ghost and he haunts places. So it seems to make sense that he would be in a graveyard. However, there might be a little bit more of a sinister reason why he's in this graveyard, and I'm gonna get into that in a moment. Starting off, Gengar and its evolution lines are said to be the stages of a ghost materializing into the mortal realm. So we start off with Ghastly, which like doesn't show up very well. It's just like this little ball. It's almost like you would imagine like pressing your hand through like a piece of paper. Like you would see the imprint of the hand and then you would kind of start to tear through the paper. Right? That's a weird analogy I just came up with out on the spot. Shout out to me for creative thinking. Think about it. We start off Ghastly, he's just kind of breaking through. Then we turn into Haunter, he's got hands now, he's a little bit more formed, and then Gengar is fully formed. That's kind of creepy in and of itself. Like, why is this ghost trying to break through into the mortal realm? Now, let's get into the lore of why he may be in this graveyard and why he may be trying to break through into the mortal realm. Now, I'm gonna again quote one of Gengar's Pokedex entries, which says, Gengar will slip into its prey's shadow and quietly await an opportunity to steal its life. Gengar is trying to enter the mortal realm to take people's lives, essentially, which is just another lovely Pokedex entry. Thank you for that, Pokemon. You might be like, that's taking it too far. You're like, that's just one Pokedex entry, like, that's just a little bit too far. Okay, now I'm gonna give you backup proof. I'm gonna give you a motive here now of why Gengar's doing this. Again, I quote from the Pokedex. Gengar tries to create a new traveling companion for itself because it was once human, but that comes at the cost of the lives of other humans. Pokemon, what? Pokemon, what the heck? I came up with this conspiracy theory. Now, this is where the mind wanders. What if this Gengar is a human who passed on and has just been slowly trying to materialize in the mortal world so that it could have a friend, which is really sweet and nice until that friend also needs to pass on. So, I came up with this conspiracy theory that what if that Gengar is waiting in that graveyard for someone to visit its grave so that it can take them with it into the beyond. Like, what if it's like, oh my god, my cousin Susie just came and visited. Yoink. Life leech. That's so creepy. That's so creepy. Or what if he just doesn't care? He'll take anyone. Or what if he's just waiting for like a new grave to be added and he's gonna be like, that's gonna be my bestie. Number 3, and this is the weirdest one on the list, so everyone fasten your seatbelts, sit yourself down, grab a snack, because it's about to get weird in here, folks. It's about to get weird, okay? And that is number 3, Clefairy and Hypno from XY Brink Point. These two are kind of one of those cards. It's basically one of those cards that go together. They're two cards that match, and they're horrifying. And there's so many different reasons and so many different layers that I'm gonna have to go through for you right now. We're gonna start off by looking at the Hypno one, but Clefairy is actually in the Hypno one, and then there's a second joint Clefairy, which is a continuation of the story in the Hypno one. The first card is very creepy in its own right. We see Hypno at the forefront with his little pendulum. A pendulum, that's what that's called, folks. Got my noggin working today. The Hypno is kind of already regarded as kind of a creepy Pokemon by a lot of people who like Pokemon, and then other people are like, he's not creepy, he's my baby, and then other people are like, I'm pretty sure he kidnapped like a small child at some point. However, I am gonna say he's pretty creepy just based off this card. So there's a lot going on in this card, and in the background we see two paths, one leading to a really dark, gloomy, creepy place, and one leading to what looks to be as somewhat of a utopia. I mean, it looks really fun, there's rainbows everywhere, and there's a Clefairy in the background somewhat begging the viewer to please go towards the rainbow. And then there's a Hypno that's like, not today, buddy. Joy and happiness, not on my watch. So this Hypno is at the forefront, and there's a broken signpost, which people say that the Hypno has broken down in order to sway the viewer to go in the direction that he wants them to go. And I heard some interpretations that somebody said this was representative of heaven and hell, and just based off of the banning of the Sabrina's Gengar due to the fact that there was crosses on it, I really highly doubt that's the interpretation the artist was going for, but it definitely could be. However, here's what I think personally when we look at the multiple layers of this card, because there's lots of layers and you have to dive deep into the actual artist's art style that they have described in order, I feel like, to get the full scheme of this card. So we're gonna start by looking at the lore of Hypno. So there is exactly 2 Pokedex entries that I could find that have had cases of Hypno hypnotizing people and essentially luring them away and kidnapping them. It's said that Hypno feasts on their dreams, so I'm not sure what Hypno does with the people after kidnapping them. Like, I don't know, does it just keep them in a permanent sleep and eat their dreams? Like, I don't know. There has been recorded instances of that happening, and in one case, it was specifically stated to be a child. Now, that's really creepy because we're gonna get into a little bit more of the lore of the card now. The artist of the card has said that they practice a art style called primitivism. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And so when we look at that art style, it tends to be based on children's drawings and also like primitive art styles. In this case though, we're gonna go with the interpretation of children's drawings because that is particularly what this art style does look like on this card. So knowing that the artist has considered themselves a master of this art style which mimics the drawings of children, Hypno is known for kidnapping children. I'm gonna say that this card is the drawing of a child that was kidnapped by Hypno. Or at least that's the story that it's meant to tell. And you might be like, that's a far reach. You're reaching. No. And you want to know why? This is the final key evidence that I'm providing for you. And that is that the move on the card is called Good Night Babies. So what I think is happening in this card is it's meant to tell the story of a Hypno leading a child away. And what I personally think is my interpretation, like I don't think it's just like the kidnapping of a child. I think it's supposed to be like the turning the dreams, because we have like the really positive side, into a nightmare. I think Hypno is like feasting on like the good dreams and turning them into nightmares. I don't know if that's exactly lore accurate. I don't know if that like it's ever said what happens when Hypno eats somebody's dreams, but I feel like that's what's happening. And we can see in the connecting card of the Clefairy to this Hypno, the Clefairy is then actually hypnotized by Hypno itself and is led into the more dark side of the card, and it's surrounded by what looks like gravestones. I don't know if that's what they are because listen to me. I actually have something so embarrassing to tell you guys. You know the weird Moo Moo Milk card that was banned? I thought that was a person the whole time drinking out of those udders. I'll show you. I'll try to outline like where I saw the face and stuff. I didn't realize that it was a Centret this whole time. So don't trust my interpretation when it comes to what things look like. I thought it looked like gravestones. They might totally be something else, because this whole time I thought that was a person, and I thought that's why it was so weird, the card. They were like, why is this weird person drinking out of some udders of this decapitated cow? No, it was a Centret, which makes it significantly less weird, I just want to point out. So yeah, that's the Hypno and Clefairy of XY Breakpoint. I think they're really creepy, just when you learn everything about them, like from the person who drew them to the actual moves on the card. I think somebody with a very twisted brain came up with those. Number 4, the Trade Please promo. That was a bit of a tongue twister. I want to make a confession here. This isn't so much of a creepy card as it is a weird card, but I put it on here because I really enjoy the story behind it. So the art of the card is drawn by Imakuni. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right again, but this person is actually pretty well known in the TCG for their weird cards, and this is no exception. But this one's particularly weird and a little bit creepy because of the way that we had to obtain the card. And I say we, I wasn't born back then, sorry. The way that they had to obtain the card. So the card art itself, pretty creepy. The Weeping Bell looks like it's seen some things. The people don't look like people. It's pretty weird. This card's got a bit of lore, it's got a bit of backstory, and let's get into why I think this card is a little bit creepy. According to Bulbapedia, from February 10th to July 31st, 1998, a campaign was started in Japan. Participants had to mail in a flyer that came with a copy of the CD Let's Trade Please, which is related to a music group of the illustrator of this card. I think it is a rap group, like run by the person who illustrated this card. And so basically, yeah, you had to mail in a flyer that came with the CD along with 2 Pokemon cards that you wanted to trade. And then you got to choose if you either wanted to receive a Charizard, Venusaur, or Blastoise. And then they would mail you back either that Charizard, Blastoise, or Venusaur along with the Trade Please promo. Now, the reason I think this is so creepy because I can just imagine myself as a child. And I'm just imagining, like, not knowing what the card was. Like, just being told, like, oh, if you mail in this flyer, you'll get some Pokemon cards back. And just, like, being like, okay, cool. And then sending it away to this mysterious place and getting back that promo. Like, I would just be like, what is this? What is this? And that's why I put this card on that list, because I just feel like the mystery of like sending your cards away and then receiving like such a weird card is like kind of creepy. This is my favorite card on the list so far. We got number 5, the Spirit Tomb Trainer Gallery from Lost Origin. This is my favorite card on the list because I think the backstory is so cool for me to like explain my conspiracy theories around it. So let's get into it. So the creep factor of this card actually directly ties into the Pokemon games, particularly Legends Arceus, because that's where the trainer appears in. And so we have to look into her lore to figure out why this card is so creepy. So Spirit Tomb is a collection of spirits, 108 to be exact, and they are permanently tied and bound to something called an odd keystone. And they were stuck to this odd keystone by a traveler who used some mysterious magic and trapped all these souls and spirits into this rock. We don't know why they did it. Some people say that these spirits are evil, which is really fun. If you think of the spirits being evil, it makes sense why the traveler would want to trap them so that they can't get out. But it gets weird because there's a little girl spirit trapped in here who we discover in Legends Arceus. Now, her name is Vesa. I'm wondering, are these spirits attached to the odd keystone human spirits, or are they non-human spirits? Because that's gonna make a really big differentiation on the conspiracy theories that I have. So I'm gonna go down 2 paths here of conspiracy theories. And that is 1, assuming that the spirits are non-human, and then 2, assuming the spirits are human. So let me get into that. So we meet Vesa, which is supposedly one of these spirits trapped inside of Spirit Tomb. When we first meet her in Pokemon Legends Arceus, she gives us the task of collecting all the wisps to put Spirit Tomb back together, but she doesn't really explain that. She's just like, find the wisp. And you're like, okay, I don't know where you came from, kid, but sure. I just have to do everything around this village. So once the player collects all the wisps, Vesa asks the player to turn around, and then she reveals herself as the last wisp. So she's one of the spirits inside Spirit Tomb. Theory number 1. Vesa is a spirit inside Spirit Tomb. She's a human spirit who passed away. She's a young girl, and she somehow did something to anger this traveler enough to put her in this keystone. Or she was evil. Like, that's kind of messed up to think, what could this little girl have done to get herself sealed away inside this thing? Number 2, my second interpretation is, I don't know how to explain it, so I'm gonna use an example. The Annabelle doll. If you guys ever watched Annabelle, I've never watched Annabelle, but she's a real thing. If you have ever watched Annabelle and you didn't know she's a real thing. And supposedly, she was really haunted and she was like harassing this family. But this family was like, hey, this doll I think is possessed. They talked to a psychic, and the psychic was like, hey mate, this is a little girl in here. Her name's Annabelle. And they were like, oh, yeah. Anyway, it turns out they think Annabelle's a demon. It's not actually a little girl. And that's actually a really common trope in media revolving ghosts and also paranormal investigations. They will often say that sometimes like more demonic spirits will pretend to be small children to gain people's trust. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, is that what's happening right now? Is Spirit Tomb actually like a demonic presence in the Pokemon world? Just pretending to be this little girl? And I don't think that's it, but it did cross my mind at one point. I also want to point out I've never played this part of the game. I've never finished Arceus. The true horror of this game is my procrastination. But no, I'm telling you this as somebody who's never played this part, but I don't think that's what happened because I'm pretty sure she's like trying to reseal Spirit Tomb. And I think if it was malevolent, I don't think that would be its intention. Like, to like unfree itself. I don't know why I would do that. So I don't think that's what happened. However, if Vesa is a human spirit, that's also kind of really creepy in and of itself because again, what did this little girl do? And if she didn't do anything, that's so sad. So looking at this card, you can see Vesa's expression is actually really quite sad. And that is why I think she is truly the spirit of a human little girl who just ended up getting trapped here somehow. However, she does make a statement in the game that makes it a little bit weird and a little bit more confusing. And she says, after this, the traveler who used that strange magic will finally forgive me, right? Making you gather all those wisps was my last bit of mischief. So that's interesting, because perhaps we can insinuate that Vesa in her lifetime, or as a spirit form, like, I don't know, like, did the traveler know all these spirits and then like sealed them up? He was like, yo, revenge, like, or was he like, these spirits are messing with me, I'ma seal them up? Because then that's two different interpretations. Was Vesa the spirit of a mischievous young girl who passed away and then harassed this traveler, and he was like, I had enough of this, enough of your mischief, be gone with you? Or was she a little girl and the like, cause I'm also thinking, like, what if the traveler like sealed their souls away and then after they died, then they went into the key? You know what I mean? Like, there's so much lore that we need to figure out with this spirit tomb. I always thought though that it was like the people had already passed and then the traveler sealed the malevolent spirits up, and then perhaps Vesa got stuck, Vesa wasn't meant to be in there. But then her saying this is my last bit of mischief makes me feel like she is a mischievous spirit. Maybe not ill-intentioned, but maybe a little bit of a hazard to society. But it's interesting to think about, like, why did Vesa end up in Spirit Tomb? And she doesn't seem very happy about it. Like she said, she wanted the traveler to forgive her. Maybe she thought that would free her from Spirit Tomb. But regardless, I feel like that makes this trainer gallery card from Lost Origin really sad and really creepy at the same time. So yeah, that's the list for Halloween. I thought it'd be fun to do kind of more of a Halloween creepy kind of video. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to actually go and like the video, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.